There is a large amount of information that we are constantly being exposed to. A lot of the times, our brain, in order to stay sane, takes certain assumptions that we make on the world around us as truth in order for it to not go absolutely crazy. It has to make these assumptions. The bad part about making assumptions on the world around us is that a lot of the times these assumptions are wrong. When our brain takes something as truth just because we perceived it incorrectly, this then becomes sort of like a law in our minds, making us absolutely susceptible to deception. If we look deeply into the nature of being a human being, we are a lot less aware of our surroundings than we think. If only we are able to realize how blind some of our blind spots are, perhaps they can become a little bit less blind. That is why today I want to take you on a journey through the world of magic, of magicians. The people that we literally pay to play with our senses and just for a second make us think that magic is real. Even though we know that no such thing exists. Sorry to those out there that believe in magic. Disclaimer, if you believe in magic, don't keep watching. Anyway, we pay magicians to play with our perception, and they have become so good at playing with our senses and making us see what they want us to see. But I always ask myself, how do they do it? And why is it that we are so easily manipulated? Well, today we'll find out why. Two aspects that make us special to any other species on planet Earth is cognition and perceptual processing. Cognition is our capacity of understanding thorough thought and taking in new knowledge. If we didn't have the capacity of cognition, we wouldn't be able to learn as much as we do and understand complex ideas and explain them the way that we do. This is what makes us superior to animals and any other species that we might find here on planet Earth, because, well, we don't know what's in any other planet, of course, but staying here on this planet, we are superior to the rest of the species. Then, even more important is perceptual processing. These are basically the steps our mind takes to understand and organize the outside world, allowing us to interpret information that we receive. The reason I mention cognition and perceptual processing is because on these two capacities lie our understanding of the world. It is incredible how only by understanding our cognitive skills, magicians are able to distort our reality. There's 3 parts to a magic trick. The first part is called the pledge. A magician shows you something ordinary, a deck of cards, and makes you think it is ordinary. The second part is called the turn. The magician takes the ordinary object and makes it do something outside of its normal capabilities. This then makes you wonder how. But of course, you most likely won't figure it out. And why? Because the magician is an expert at tapping into the parts of your brain you can't control. And finally, the prestige. The magician brings back whatever he took. Unbend the bended spoon, bring back the lost bunny. Attention can affect what we see greatly. We suffer from something that's called inattentional blindness. This is basically the fact that when we are very, very concentrated on something, on an object, our visual field becomes impaired because only what we are concentrated on is what we see with clarity. Everything in our peripheral vision becomes basically blind. It's like we become horses or get tunnel vision, where everything outside of our concentration field is dark. We're blind to it. When a magician allows a dove to fly out into the theater or uses social miscues to misdirect the audience's attention, he is using our inattentional blindness to fool us. While we are looking at the dove, he is preparing his main stunt in our peripheral vision where we're basically blind. And he has absolute freedom to do whatever he wants without us even noticing. There is a trick, it's called the vanishing ball illusion. And it's able to play with our senses so deeply that the illusion might seem simple when understood, but absolutely incomprehensible when not understood. What happens in this illusion is that a magician tosses a ball into the air once, twice, 3 times, and then suddenly the ball disappears. At the last toss, the magician actually doesn't release the ball from his hands. Crucially, what happens is that his gaze follows the trajectory the ball would have made had it been tossed. The head and eye movement serve as a subtle social cue that suggests the trajectory the audience expects. When experiments have been done in this magic trick, the subjects tend to follow the magician's gaze and become fooled into believing the ball left the hand. Sometimes, people are so sure the ball left the hand that the subjects can assure it, when in reality, it never did. Inattentional blindness plays a huge role in illusions, and mostly in this one, and I will show you how. I found a video on Khan Academy that left me absolutely blown away. Maybe it will leave you blown away as well. So, you have to pay attention. On the screen, yellow stars will appear. I want you to count how many you see. Then, some red X's will start showing up. Count how many of those you see as well. This is even harder because I haven't stopped talking this whole time. Now let's see how you did. On the screen, 15 yellow stars appeared and 13 red X's. Just in case you haven't noticed, there is a smiley face on the screen. It also came up while you were counting. Most of us most likely didn't see it, and if you did, congratulations, that makes you a small percentage in society. This is an experiment for inattentional blindness. It helps us basically prove the fact that it is true that when we are focusing on something, our peripheral vision is absolutely blind to anything that is in it. The capacity psychology has of explaining the power and robustness in a magical routine is absolutely mesmerizing to me. Here's another trick. It's called the multiplying billiard balls routine. And this one is even more incredible than the last, because here we are able to see how a lot of the times those assumptions we make on the world around us are the ones that make it possible for us to be deceived. What happens in the multiplying billiard balls routine is that the magician first presents a single ball. Then, after a quick flick of the wrist, a second ball suddenly appears. This stunning trick basically relies on 2 simple principles. The first one is that the first ball is actually an empty semi-spherical shell already containing the second ball, which using the middle finger is quickly rolled out of the shell during a swift flick of the wrist. Thus, on the face of it, this magical effect may be said to rest on 2 simple facts. 1, that a semi-spherical shell looks indistinguishable from a full sphere when it's viewed from the right direction, and 2, that the spectators erroneously believe that the semi-spherical shell is a full sphere. The theory to understanding this trick is something called a modal volume completion. A modal perception is the perception of the whole of a physical structure when only parts of it affect the sensory receptors. This is basically when we fill in the gaps. A lot of the times we're not able to see a full object, but we imagine that the rest of that object is there. Put a semi-spherical shell on a table and view it directly from above. In this situation, the shell is perceived as a semisphere. If you hold it slightly above the table, however, it looks like a full sphere. Maybe it's not possible to become fully aware of our surroundings constantly. And maybe just because we're human, that is not what we're meant to be. But maybe knowing and understanding our blind spots will help us the next time we are approached by a magician or anyone really, and not be deceived so easily. Thank you so much for watching. I hope that you learned something new, and I know for a fact that when I first learned about immortal volume completion and inattentional blindness, I was blown away. I couldn't believe how susceptible human beings are to everything that goes on around them. I would love to hear what you have to say about everything I talked about today. And if there's any topic that you would like me to talk about in the future, please leave it down in the comments. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe if you like what you saw. That way I can keep on making videos. And so, yeah, I'll see you next time. Bye.